Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 of our dual mono event today. There are still some people outside, but we're slowly going to start, I think. So just to kind of make a resume again, we're going to have a conversation that is going to be open to the public afterwards. So all questions are welcome. Okay. Thank you both for your presentations. And there are some things that I would like to get into a little bit more in detail from both of your work and biographies. And I would like to start with you, Jakub. So what I wonder about is, how did you get involved in Bludný kámen in the first place? And what were your interests back then? How did it lead you to pursue this type of practice?
Okay, that's actually a good start, because I have this cliche answer, I would say. Because at some point, I don't know, at around 2007 maybe, I was at a concert organized by Bludný kámen. It was a saxophone player, Martin Kuchen, playing in House of Arts in Opava, which was at that time the institution that Bludný kámen was running. And I remember going there, seeing Martin playing, and I was absolutely amazed. You know, it was like the moment of, wow, I've never heard anything like that. And he was just blowing into the sax, you know, not making tones or stuff. And that's actually my first memory with Bludný kámen activities that came to my mind, or that come to my mind. But my involvement with the activities came later. Of course, I started going to the events organized by Bludný kámen, and met Martin Klimesh at some point. And yeah, that's how it. You know, like it's a small collective. It's a small city. Everyone knows everyone, and at some point you just run into the people that you have common interests with. And yeah, then at some point Martin invited me for a meeting of Bludný kámen, and that's how it started. But I think at the beginning, at the presentation, I didn't mention that Bludný kámen is not a sound art institution or anything like that. Most of the program of Bludný kámen is focused on just contemporary art with some conceptual approaches, and sometimes like this like sonic field and sonic events connect to the exhibitions, and that's how it started to like create the main focus of Bludný kámen.
Actually, maybe you could tell a little bit more about Martin Klimesh too, because the audience is probably not familiar with this name as well. And the extra question would be, at what point music became a part of that equation then?
Martin Klimesh is a very important figure for art scene, mainly during the 90s and after 2000, when he really created a special point on the map, as I said, for both the experimental improvised music scene, but also for contemporary art. And when I talked about Bludný kámen being the main organizer of events in the institution, House of Arts in Opava, it was the time when this institution had a very recognizable program within the or amongst the institutions in Czech Republic. And so Martin started meeting people from the art scene in the 80s when he was studying in Brno, and he met Jiří Valoch, who is a very important figure for conceptual art in Czechia. And he went to many events there, to studios of artists and so on, and he started doing conceptual art, somehow specific on the border of minimal reductionist conceptual art. And then in the late 80s, he started organizing exhibitions of artists, of his fellows that he met in Brno, but not only. And then he introduced this program and this interest of his in Opava and created this point on the map, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I wonder more about also the way how curating experimental music events and sound art came from within the interest of conceptual art. Where was it positioned back then in Czech Republic? How have you researched how did it become what it is today?
Okay, I think there we don't really talk about sound art in Czechia, I think, until recently, basically. But all the approaches that involved sound art practices were somehow part of the broader conceptual art scene. Yeah. And this was already 70s, 80s. A lot of artists were creating graphic scores. Of course, they were under big influence of John Cage, introducing chance methods in their production of pieces. But mainly this was connected to what we call in Czechia like the conceptual art scene of the 70s, 80s. Yeah. And so I think sound was somehow part of it, but not really that there would be an experimental or like sound art scene or something like that. It was maybe later in the 90s when these practices were introduced. And within my presentation, I talked about Miloš Wojciechowski as another important figure for this kind of art, who in the late 80s and early 90s lived in Amsterdam in Netherlands. And there he actually ran a small venue and met a lot of artists and a lot of people who he then brought to Czechia after the 1989. And that's the story of these hermit symposiums that I talked about that took place in the Plasy Monastery, Western Bohemia, between 1992 and 1999. And there he introduced like many international artists. And I think this had quite some impact on the art scene. And also afterwards he was involved with more like institutional exhibitions and so on and so on. And I think in the 90s these like, of course, like the borders were open, the artists from abroad were eager to see like the post-Soviet countries or like the former West former East countries. And so they were coming and they were like showing their art here. So I think that's the point where these approaches came to the Czech scene.
Okay, thanks. We're gonna get back to that in a little bit. So more or less the same question goes to you, Martin. How did you end up in Berlin, in West Berlin in the 70s?
Well, in the I think I came in 1969. I arrived here, so a bit earlier. And I came here because I had a flat in swinging London, in Hammersmith, and I had German visitors from Berlin, and they said, "Oh, you must come to Berlin." So I found myself, I think, in Northern Europe, and then I made the next step. I got on the train and came to Berlin. I had one telephone number, so I got off. I got off at Bahnhof. So I went to the telephone box and I rang up my hot number, and then everything flowed from there.
Very fast.
I was working at that time. I was working as an architect in England, and I was using a rather simple prefabricated system for making schools. It's called CLASP, Consortium of Local Authorities School Program, and I happened to make contact with an architect in Berlin who was using this English system. So I immediately got a job there because I was an expert and he was new to it. So without a word of German, I could start working as an architect.
And how eventually then that led you to pursue an artistic practice?
Yes, well, most of my friends, my German friends who I met in London were in the art scene. A painter called Karl-Heinz Dennig, and also I had visit from the daughters of Galerie Springer, who said, "You must come to Berlin. It's so exciting." So I did.
It's interesting. Andres told me the same a few months ago. You must come to Berlin. It will be great.
Do you remember some important figures for you in that early bit of the 70s? Some people that inspired you to pursue sculpture?
You mean people who I met here who
Yes,
inspired
yes,
me?
yes.
Yes, very definitely. I was introduced to Eberhard Bloom, and he was extremely fine flautist and a very good organizer. And this is how, to cut a long story short, I built a flute playing machine. This was for an exhibition about the designer of the modern flute, Theobald Bohm. It was in the Kunstlerhaus Britannien. And he asked me to do something, and I said, "I'll make a flute playing machine." And he said, "It's impossible." But he got 5,000 Deutschmarks together to help me build it. So it was okay. It worked.
Was it an art piece for you back then?
Yeah, artwork.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose so, but it was a challenge, basically. Right? But I got some very good electronic help to the electronics removing fingers, and it was programmed by a very visible music roll with felt tip pen markings on it. And to get from the felt tip pen markings to the movement of the fingers on the flute, this was done by Roland Frank, who is a composer.
I also wonder about, when did you understand the engineering interests that you had are also artistic interests?
I didn't really make a connection. This is art. It just happened to be. It was somehow the same part of my brain. I don't know, left-hand side or right-hand side. Yes. It was just I didn't make that kind of a connection.
Yeah.
So, when did you have your first exhibition, or like when you showed it as
I think in 1979 in Halsam Kleist Park.
We will get back to that exhibition also, but we will still turn back to Jakub, because there's quite some more things to tell about that I think were not really covered also in the presentation because of time, of course, but about the history of Bludný kámen and the very interesting involvement with space in the city of Opava. And perhaps there's something also to tell a little bit more about the people that were engaged in this very specific small context in the late 80s and 90s. Yeah, would you like to tell about that more?
Yeah, so you're probably relating to part of our activities, which is like, let's say, reconstructing and cleaning. Yeah, let's start with cleaning and reconstructing and repairing spaces rented from the city and from, I don't know, the city theater and so on. Showing an exhibition there and showing the city or the theater or any other institution, okay, this space that hasn't been used for ages can be used when it's cleaned and reconstructed. So let's use it and let's kick this collective out of it. So this happened quite a few times, but we find it as part of our activities, yeah, because there were some. There were some, or we tried at some points to have a proper cultural house organization with several rooms, with studios, with bar and stuff like this. But we never had, the collective, as you said, was always very limited and the capacities were limited. And so we never really built, let's say, a community that would take care of such a big organization. Also in the years when Bludný kámen was running the House of Art in Opava, which is an actual municipal gallery, like a proper big institution, they had like two employers. One was Martin Klimesh, who was the director, curator, production manager, PR manager, and all this. And then they had like a installation technician who most of the time took care of the heating system. And I mean, although the collective, of course, like attracted more younger people, Opava is a small city. It has a university, it has a university life, but it has very, very little students. Many of them are just coming for some time and then leaving the city. So there were times when the collective grew, when there were like more people going for the events, more people helping with organizing the events, and then they left for I don't know, other schools, for family life, or also we had some great help from secondary school students who then left for universities, academies to Prague, and didn't come back to Opava. And this is like the cycle of this organization, which actually lasts from the 90s. Yeah, and Martin was like holding his position, his place, and people were coming and leaving. And now I'm actually I replaced him in a way, and now I'm actually looking for some younger people who would take care of it. And it's like on the city of such a small scale, it's not very easy. And also when we're talking about Opava, like the connection from bigger cities is quite difficult. It's good to say that Bludný kámen has quite a recognizable name or a recognizable position within the Czech art scene and also international art scene, but it doesn't really show in the local audience interest. So that's struggle since always, basically.
Yeah, I see. I actually wonder, maybe you can tell a little bit more about the very, very beginnings, also in relation to this tea house. Am I correct? And what was the significance of that for a space for arts in the Czech context back then?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it at the presentation. So the tea culture and also in connection to the like Eastern philosophy and Eastern practices and so on was very important in the newly explored New Age era that came to Czechia in the 90s. Yeah, so basically, the tea room was something which came out of it. Yeah, we had like this something is happening. We have many people who are interested in it, and there's Martin, who was a good friend with Jiří Hynek-Kocman, also an important figure in the Brno conceptual art scene, and who was especially eager on tea and tea culture. And so he decided to start this cultural space as a tea room, tea house, and everything came later with this. Yeah, so of course Martin was interested in showing exhibitions, so he invited the artists that he knew already and started doing concerts there. But it was very limited space and connected with this culture.
Mm-hmm. There are some things that I want to ask about that more. But I want to also get in this a little bit in betweenness of curatorial practice and artistic practice, because of course Bludný kámen is not anymore in the 90s, it's also in, it's 2025. Strange to even say that. So I have a question for you, Martin, about that first exhibition that you had here in Berlin, and you exhibited there a work that is a hang glider. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
It was hanging from the ceiling.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that work? Because this is something that preceded some of the later kinetic sculptures and sound sculptures. So the interest in aeromodeling, can you tell a bit about that?
Yes, what did I show there? I showed this bamboo polythene hang glider and 2 clocks and a pendulum, or 3 pendulums, quite big, pendulum which goes like this. 3 of them, which made clicking sounds. They were about 3 meters high altogether.
Was there any other way how you would have wanted to exhibit also the hang glider, like for example, to do a performance of yourself trying to fly?
No, one of the places I visited in Berlin when I didn't think I would live here very long was the museum which is dedicated to Otto Lilienthal.
Can you say it again?
Otto Lilienthal. Otto Lilienthal is the first hang gliding person, and he started in Berlin. There's a mound in the south of Berlin next to a lake, and from this mound he had this bamboo and cloth hang glider with wide wings like a bird, not triangular, and he ran down the hill and made gliding flights. This is in about 1900.
But why did you pursue these type of works? What was interesting for you?
Well, I thought it was a very interesting kind of activity. Unfortunately, he had a fatal crash, and that was the end of that. But it was pre-Wright brothers. It was really the real beginning of flying, and he was successful in making flights of about 100 meters with this system.
Yeah. How was your experience with it? Did you?
I was doing this in Worpswede. Worpswede is very flat, moorland. There was a slight hill, and I was experimenting with gliding flights. I don't think I got up to 100 meters, maybe 50 meters. What was good was that it was a small hill, but a very steady wind.
Did you ever think of continuing those works?
No, I think I had a minor accident and I got scared and stopped.
You had also these works with aerial photography, with the kite photography.
Yes.
Did that come afterwards? The glider?
About the same time. I built a large box kite, maybe about this high, and I had about 200 or 300 meters of string, and I sent the kite up and then hooked the camera onto the string. I was doing this in Yugoslavia, off one of the islands in Yugoslavia, and I was just about to take my photograph when a MiG jet came along out of nowhere and flew underneath the string. That was incredibly loud. It was so close, I could clearly see the pilot as he zipped past. I was absolutely terrified. And I wound down my kite and made myself very small and vanished. There was no repercussions. That was the last I heard of it.
Were you not scared to put up flying, photographing objects in Yugoslavia at that time?
I didn't do it again.
How did you end up there in Yugoslavia?
I was on holiday.
On holiday? Aha. Interesting.
Did you build the kite there, or did you bring it?
No, I think it's a good question. I brought the kite with me. We were in a Volkswagen bus, And so also I had the winder, which was quite big.
When you look at what's possible today,
Yes.
are you still interested in that? Or do you think, it's so easy
You
today?
mean drones?
Yes.
Yes. I've never built a drone.
Did you ever want to?
It never came into my head.
Yes. Okay. Kites
Maybe-
were more interesting.
Maybe I should do it. I don't know.
That's up to you.
Some of the drones in very, very simple construction, like a model aircraft made of balsa wood even.
I was pretty surprised how accurate the pictures came out from the kite photography. That they were sharp. They were not foggy.
They were sharp. It's as good as Google Maps.
But sorry, can you explain how it worked? I can't imagine like how you pressed the.
Well, there are three methods. One of them, there was a fuse, slow match, slow burning fuse, which cut through a string, burnt through a string, which held the shutter up, and then the shutter dropped and it took the photograph. That was one method. Another one was using the timers, which are used on model aircraft. They circle up and up and up, and then this timer goes off, and then they go down again, so you get your model back. It's called a dethermalizer switch. And then there was. Yes.
Yes, there is a sketch here.
Yeah, I think this is. Oh, yes, that's one. That's one with a dethermalizer switch at the top, above the camera, and there's an elastic band which pulls the shutter down. And that's the string.
So also after the 70s, you stopped these projects and shelved them and didn't pick them up again.
Sorry?
You did not pick up these projects, these aero modeling projects afterwards.
No, I didn't come back to it. By the way, this is the Berlin Wall, looking towards the west. This is the wall, and then this blotch on the right, and I think that's where the road went out of Berlin. You could just see I can't see it now, but I thought you could see a watchtower, but I can't see it on this photo.
Yeah,
yes, here we are.
There is a watchtower there.
This is a watchtower with three cars next to it.
Yeah.
So no repercussions after this project.
No, it's done in peace. No problems.
Great job.
Although I think it was illegal. Flying kites near the wall was probably not a very good idea.
Okay. We're going to skip a bit further and get to the question of how you both, but I will ask this question to Jakub first, get involved with working with sound, the medium sound, and perhaps you can tell both of your experience about your experience with performing music also, and then going more seriously into curating music and sound art.
Yeah, I actually think I've somehow explained the path. So first for me it was like going to concerts of experimental music, which was like extremely interesting for me at the time, and I can't tell how is that because I took my friends with me and they never sticked around for a long time, but I don't know why is it, but I was from the first point I was really amazed by what it is, what's the like about the innovative approach from my perspective. Uh, yeah, but that's just my connection to the experimental music at the beginning. But uh, getting more in the field of sound art, I think it also I also explained like the way through all the exhibitions that we organized, and I was already back then part of Bludný kámen, and so participating in organization of the exhibitions, participating in organization of the concerts, but yeah, at some point it led me to research on sound art and how it developed in Czechia or Czechoslovakia, and that was a very interesting step because there are like two very important figures in Czech art and who were somehow pioneering figures of what we can call sound-related art. And one of them is Milan Knížák. We showed his exhibition as the very first one of the cycle. And he was also part of this exhibition here in Hamburger Bahnhof. And his Broken Music, which is a series of his works, gave title to the exhibition. And so Milan Knížák was involved with the underground music scene early in mid 60s already with his band Aktuál, and that was really something innovative. It was even before the famous Plastic People of the Universe came to the scene, and it was a band they introduced like all different kind of performative events in the concert. He at the exhibition we showed his graphic scores that he produced for the band, and it was really something very new. And then later in the 60s he started doing his famous happenings that then led him with the help of Jindřich Chalupecký to the US, and he became connected with Fluxus and afterwards became like the director of Fluxus East. And these events were he started breaking records, gluing them together or scratching records and then playing them, and the act of playing them afterwards within this performance, his happenings, was something very new and very innovative in the international art. And then the other very important figure who somehow found his own way towards sound and sound performances was Milan Grigar. And we are actually showing his exhibition or opening his exhibition next week on Friday. And Milan Grigar was from a totally different context. He was he studied at the academy with a famous Emil Fila professor who was like the leading figure of the Czech modernist period. And Milan Grigar at some point in the mid 60s started recording of his drawing. Yeah, so he drew and at some point he realized like the sound of it. He tape recorded the sounds of the drawing, but which was new, he started exhibiting the sounds alongside the drawings. And I think Milan Knížák is, I think, well known in the sound art scene, let's say, but and due to his connection to Fluxus also. But Milan Grigar is somehow being forgotten about, and he's in his approach, and in his focus on acoustic events and a connection of sound and vision, let's say, he's been very innovative, and he stick to this from the mid 60s to nowadays. He's in his 90s, 95, 96 maybe, and until recently he continued with painting, with minimalist, very reductionist painting, but still in connection with sound. And he always talks about his paintings as potential scores, and these paintings and these drawings and scores that he created were also interpreted by many musicians in the experimental art scene. And one important event in connection to Milan Grigar is that in 1970 he had exhibition in House of Art in Brno, where he actually showed his works, but he also performed his graphic score live, and it was amplified table where he produced his chance scores, and it was like a sort of an opening performance thing. And I think we should stress this. And just to sum it up, these two figures led me to my academic research, and which I continue until today.
Yeah, I think that kind of like historic art is very important to mention, but I do wonder really about your motivation and your opinion. Why do you still see value in curating sound art related exhibitions? What does it do different than perhaps the conceptual art background or the visual arts background can do?
I think the great thing about sound art is that it's continuously evolving, right? That from the early analog technology, we're now getting to the period when sound is part of many and maybe most of the contemporary art exhibitions, and that also artists are not sticking so much to the technology, but working or like using sound as one of the medium, in this like broad field of open media approach. Sound is just becoming like one of them, not to focus on the sound, on the technology itself, but to like really becoming a part of the broad field of art, which I find like really interesting. That's maybe my approach towards it.
Yeah. Well, we will still get back to that. Martin, you did answer partly already about one of your first sound sculptures, about the flute sculpture. Yes. But perhaps maybe you want to tell a bit about how that developed onwards. You made the sculpture, and there was a commission for it, right? For a composition. And what happened afterwards? How did you continue on?
Yes, I was asked by various composers if they could, if I would translate their score for this machine, which I did. Tom Johnson came to Berlin on the G80, and most of his time here he spent making these strips of plastic with felt tip pen markings. And it was because his music is so systematic, it was very nice to be able to read very clearly the forms which he used.
Yeah. What brought you two together?
I think we were introduced by Eberhard Bloom.
But as in like a creative interest.
And Eberhard Bloom said, do something for the flute playing machine to him. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. But that collaboration went on for quite some years.
Yes, for many years.
Yes.
For many years.
What did you work on together with
We
more?
worked on percussion installations and 2 percussion installations. And then there was one of the installations had various percussion instruments which were sited in various parts of a large space. Different kinds of percussion instruments. I didn't make the instrument; these were commercial instruments, but I made the beaters, and they were powered by the magnets which you get in flipper machines, very powerful magnets. That was how they were normally lying on the floor.
Yeah, I wonder how is it for you that there's quite some people that have composed works for your machines, but you also have had some influences from music that motivated you to make some of your works, like.
Well, if a composer comes up with an idea and says, "Can you do this?" I would try very hard to do it. That's the main inspiration.
But there's also this one work that is influenced by Steve Reich's clapping music. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. I made a small clicking machine. I don't know, with clapping music. Can you explain clapping music? It's two performers clapping a rhythm together. They're 2 percussionists, but they're clapping. And they clap this rhythm, which is maybe 2 bars long, and then they do a shift of 1 note and keep on clapping. And then after a time, another shift of 1 note. It's incredibly difficult. I can't imagine how they do it, but since they're professional percussionists, they can do that. And then they keep on doing this repeat and repeat until they come back unisono again. I'm more impressed by the human percussionist being able to do that than by any machine doing it.
But you still made the machine.
I still made it.
It's playing in the background. I'm recording it. Okay, I'm still going to speak over it a little bit. That's okay. That's okay. Thank you. Yeah, but there was it's quite a simple formal process, and there are in your works there are quite a lot of these processes, very clear, almost like an algorithm. Why are you interested in that, I wonder? And or how come it's fun to do that?
I was very pleased when I saw in one of your texts it said, what was it? clear and decisive or something. Yeah, I thought that's exactly what I try to do, to make something which is transparent and clear from the concept.
Yes, that answers partly the question, and that of course it makes sense why you do collaborate with these people. There is also this interesting kind of in-betweenness of these works of yours that we're gonna talk about also in a little bit, but between the speech machines and the thinking machine of Masahiro Miwa. Am I correct? Because in the speaking machines, there is quite an open and clear engineering. It's like the machine is not hidden. It's clear for people to see. And in the thinking machine, it is clear, but the process is a complex process. Was it like kind of a joke, the thinking machine, or how did the thinking machine came to be after the talking machines?
No, it wasn't a joke. I was dead serious. There was a simple algorithm. I can't trot it off right now, but there was a simple algorithm which related to the previous note, the next note, and how the combination of those two notes would influence the third note. And I managed to make a mechanism with rolling balls, where the first ball is the first note, goes ding. The second note goes down the track, which is influenced by the previous. I'm describing this badly. It's a sloping board, and there are gates in it which can make a ball go straight, left, or right, and the balls influence each other. And at the other end, there are 3 bells which gets played. Is that fairly clear?
For me,
the whole thing is circulating. The balls are being taken from the bottom and they're taken to the top. And the combination, because of the Schaltung, the switching, changes all the time. But once you started it, if the machine doesn't make any mistakes, which is very rare, it will play exactly as intended.
What is the difference in between the thinking machines and the speaking machines? Why is it a thinking machine?
Well, it's in the name, yeah?
Okay.
one speaks, the other thinks.
Okay, that's clear enough. No
there's
in
a
between.
big difference.
Okay. Yes.
It'd be good to link them up, though.
Yes, it would. Okay, I'm going to start wrapping up also on our conversation, but there are 2 more questions that I still want to ask you, and then we give the microphone to the audience too. There's something quite important that I wonder about also of the practice of Bludný kámen. It's about the publishing practice also, and not only the publishing practice, but also more my specific interest in the documentation of some culture that feels like it's on some sort of verge of also extinction in the region, like some sort of oral culture that's, for example, the instrument building or something like this, that you feel that's necessary to preserve in some form as publishing, or, for example, this website that is a sound map around Opava. So I wonder about the your involvement with that.
Yeah. So like concerning publishing, we mainly publish catalogs and books that are somehow connected to our exhibition activities or art activities. This year we're preparing like a big publication on the commemorating the 30 years of Bludný kámen activities, which is somehow trying to wrap or sum up our what we did and what we're going to do. But apart from that, I think that it's really important this website or this project that we started with Michal Kindernej and Magdalena Manderlova, who are the curators of the Symposium Festival, because it was part of an exhibition series when we focused on Opava and its surroundings, and so we invited artists who created works somehow connected to the region, somehow connected to the specific history, because Opava is part of the Sudetenland, so like a rich multicultural history. And we also invited Magda and Michal to create an archive of sounds. And what they came up with was this actually interactive project that is still on, called Zvuky Opavy, Sounds of Opava. And yeah, it's just a map, interactive map where you upload sounds of like different like your field recording. So basically, like the normal system that Radio Apari and projects like this have. But also an important part of it was the documentation role that Michal and Magdalena did. They wanted somehow to document the sounds of not only Opava but the surroundings. They focused on the river Opava from one side to another, and they followed the flux of the river, recording sounds and also different dialects of the region and so on. But I mean, this was like a archival practice. It wasn't a very like long-term thorough research, like social anthropology or something. This was more like connected to the sound events and like let's say artistic research or something like that.
And what about the publishing practice, like the one that takes form in press?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's connected mainly with exhibitions, and of course we find it like as extremely important to our activities, because that's the thing that lasts. And yeah, we try to with the large scale collective exhibitions, we always try to publish a catalog sort of, or a publication. And also for this cycle of or series of exhibition of early sound artists, we also wanted to finish it with a book, but we still haven't finished the series, and we don't want to yet. So the book will be afterwards.
Okay. There's one more question, maybe in relation to kind of like your future vision of what's going to happen in like the curatorial practice for you in the next, let's say, whatever, 10, 20 years, who knows? Is about it. The question kind of starts with some categories that Martin Klimesh has mentioned about an event that I did in the 90s with Bludný kámen, and that the event was characterized by intermediality, unconventional sounds, the use of chants, and an awareness of the environment. Is there something that you would like to still add to this list as something that you want to, or something that characterizes already the more recent Bludný kámen's activities, or something that you would like to take away from this list that's not so much relevant anymore?
Interesting, because we had this talk with Martin and with others from the collective we're in the middle of the talks about this because we are preparing a big exhibition somehow for the 30th anniversary of Bludný kámen, and we want to show like different fields that Bludný kámen was interested in, and different approaches and curating and so on. And the main discussion we have is like if the general approach of our activities has changed during the years or if we can say that we're still interested in the, I don't know, post-conceptual practice, conceptual approaches to and experimental approaches towards art and so on. So I'm not going to answer this because we're in the middle of the discussion. But concerning the future of our activities and concerning myself, I think I proposed this series of exhibitions of early sound artists as sort of a museum-based approach towards curating, which was also connected with me being responsible for the collection of intermedia and new media in the museum. And I think what we should do next is somehow like get back or like connect these approaches of like showing the early stages or like early approaches of sonic art with the current ones, and we're doing it. We did it in the last exhibition when we showed the Benjamin Gruszek with his connection with Alvin Lucier, and also we're doing it on this exhibition with Milan Grigar, who we're showing with a contemporary artist Dan Vlček, whose approach is like very similar in a way to Grigar's, although he's like very much influenced with Grigar. But so yeah, we're now trying to think of like different way of curating these, although we still feel that we didn't change much.
Yeah, it's like kind of mapping a path that overlays, like something that where it's not completely new work, but it's seeing how these works relate, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, have one more question, and that's going to be it. I'm just going to say it very clearly. In 1996, you had a radio interview where you said that you would like to create a humanoid machine. Are you still interested in that? Did you try making it?
I tried and I failed. I wanted to make a figure sitting in the corner of an exhibition, a figure seated at a desk. On the desk is a screen, and the screen, the figure is moving the mouse, and the screen is scrolling. Just making minimal movements like this. But I never did it. I made it in rough. I had the body done. It had a long wig, so you couldn't really see the head. And the head would move a little bit. But in the end, I thought I didn't like it, and I dropped it. That's as far as I got.
You never wanted to come back to that? You never wanted to come back to that? Or you don't see it as something unfinished?
I haven't been thinking about that recently, but now you mentioned it, maybe I'll try it. Maybe you'll notice something in some exhibition. It's not real, it's fake.
I will be quite scared to go to the exhibition in February, but I'm looking forward. Thank you both. Now, if there is any questions, please do ask.
It's actually, hey, I can't. Yeah, it's actually not a question, but as soon as we were talked about this station that was installed in the lake near Opava, I would be very curious to hear a little bit online streaming from there, if it's okay to.
Yep, just give me a second. So I think. I must say that it's more interesting when the birds don't sleep. And so during the daylight, it's much more vibrant. But sometimes you hear a train passing by, which is like a very distinctive. Udo said that he analyzed the sound and he found some 40 bird species within the first week of recording, which I don't know if it's a lot or not, but it's a number.
Thank you. It's a nice way to connect to another space in real time. I really appreciate.
That's a nice flute recording.
Anyone else?
I have a question to Martin. Could you talk about your inspiration about that made you do the speaking machines? Was that also something that was requested? I'm here. Hi.
It's about the inspiration for the speaking machines.
Oh, thank you. This is a very simple explanation. I went to the Exploratorium in San Francisco, and there they had resonators made by Chiba and Kajiyama these resonators, if you played a sound into them, they would resonate with the A, E, R, or U. They were made of perspex, so you could see these shapes inside. Very beautiful. They were made by Chiba and Kajiyama right in the middle of the Second World War. Anyway, I was fascinated by these, and I thought, what would happen if I just carry on and make all the sounds which we use to speak, like sh, and s, and all the other sounds. And I had a machine which was like an organ. It had organ pipes, 4 octaves. And I took all the organ pipes out and put my new speech pipes in and played it with a different special software. That's how that happened.
Were originally the resonators, what the resonators were originally for during the war?
They weren't for the war. They were invented during the war by chance.
Okay. But for what purpose?
Sorry?
For what purpose?
Out of scientific interest. They made very precise measurements of the inside of the mouth. And then this enabled them to create these strange looking pipes.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. One more question? Stay around, get a drink at the bar, and these 2 amazing people are still here. If you want to ask a question discreetly, and so on. Thank you, oolongradio, and outside in, inside out, outside in.